When photographers ask us how to edit photos, we often tell them that they're not asking the right question.
It's no secret that from the minute you walk away from a wedding day or a portrait session to the minute you actually deliver the final gallery of images to your clients, that there is a lot of work that needs to be done. And what many newer or aspiring photographers don't realize is that editing is just a small part of that.
That's why Hunter and I are launching a new video series called Post-Production Secrets. We're going to give you a peek behind the curtain and show you the workflow that we use to turn thousands of raw files into a beautiful wedding gallery for our clients week after week, up to 40 times per year.
So in today's video, we're going to introduce you to the concept of workflow and systems thinking kind of on a broad level. And then we're going to specifically dive into the very first and most important step in the post-production process, which we believe is backing up your images.
Now, before we jump into that, we want to introduce ourselves.
I'm Hunter.
And I'm Sarah.
And we're Hunter and Sarah Photography, a husband and wife professional wedding photography team.
We're also educators, and our goal is to help photographers build strong foundations in both their personal lives and their businesses so that they can run profitable and sustainable photography businesses.
Now, before we dive into the first part of the series, we want to give you just a quick overview of how the entire series is going to work. So like I mentioned, in today's video, part 1, we're going to chat kind of generally about workflow and specifically about backups.
Next week, we're going to talk about keyword sorting, something that 95% of other wedding photographers that we know do not do, but we think makes a huge difference in the long run.
In week 3, we're going to discuss culling, or the process of taking hundreds or even thousands of images and narrowing it down into a more manageable number of photos that you'll actually edit and deliver to your clients.
In week 4, we'll discuss social media sneak peeks and blogs and why we think that they are an important part of every photographer's workflow.
And in week 5, we're going to get to the all-important process of editing your photos. Now, we're going to talk a lot about presets, but don't worry, we're not going to sell you any of our own. In fact, we're really just going to teach you how to make your own presets from scratch.
Yeah. And then in week 6, we're going to wrap it all up with a discussion on how to deliver your gallery to your clients and what we do with our clients' images after their gallery has been delivered.
And throughout the series, we're going to be focusing specifically on weddings, and we're going to talk about weddings mostly, but keep in mind that this process, whether you're doing weddings or portrait sessions, works exactly the same. So whether we're coming home after a wedding day or an engagement session or a family session, whatever, we actually use the same exact process.
But yeah, let's jump on in.
So we also want to confess right at the start that this series isn't nearly as maybe sexy or exciting as things like buying new camera gear or booking new clients, but honestly, having efficient and repeatable workflows is literally the only way to run a sustainable business in the long run.
Yeah, although it may seem strange thinking about, maximizing efficiency and putting systems in place when you only have maybe 1 or 2 jobs each season, but in a few years, you'll be glad that you didn't wait.
Yeah, if you run your business with a kind of haphazard, laid-back attitude and approach every wedding or portrait session differently, not only will you have a really inconsistent business, which is just generally bad for business, but it also means you'll suffer when you do actually start to get busy. But if you put really efficient and repeatable systems into place right from the start, then your business can grow with way less stress and frustration.
Yeah, and as you book your first couple of weddings, put systems in place as though you had, 20 weddings this year. Mm-hmm. Then when you actually do have 20 weddings, you won't feel like you're drowning under the weight of it all.
Or 40 if you're ever as crazy as we were last year. We know that this kind of systems thinking approach to our business is one of the reasons that we've grown as quickly as we have. But of course, we also want to remind you that just because you put efficient systems into place doesn't mean that you interact with your clients like some, emotionless customer service robot. And you can still be genuine and have real heartfelt interactions with your clients while running the back end of your business well.
Yeah, and having an efficient workflow has probably helped us to focus more on those relationships with our clients and less on the administration. So let's start with the very first part of your post-production workflow, backups.
So there's an old mantra that my high school yearbook teacher used to say, which is there are 2 types of people in the world, those who have experienced data loss and those who will. And while I probably believed her at the time, I didn't really internalize that lesson until my first semester of college. I had been taking all of my notes for the whole semester on my laptop, and my hard drive crashed 2 weeks before final exams. So I had to study for my finals, my first semester in undergrad, without any of the notes that I had taken over the last 4 months.
Yeah, so thankfully Hunter learned that lesson the hard way, so we didn't have to learn it again. A few years later, his hard drive crashed again.
Yeah, I gotta get better computers.
Only this time, it wasn't just classwork that was on the hard drive.
Just a few weeks before the hard drive crashed, we had just shot our very first wedding. And the entire wedding, all of the images had been uploaded to that computer, and we were probably about halfway through editing the gallery. But since we had learned from my previous mistake, my first semester in college, we were using online backup systems. So when the hard drive crashed and I had to get a completely new computer, we didn't really lose any progress. As soon as I got the new computer, all of the information, all the images, they were stored safely online.
Yeah, you know, it's really scary to think about, but if we hadn't started using those backups before that first wedding, it probably could have ended our wedding career before it even began.
Yeah, so that kind of leads into the first part about backups, which is cloud backups. So cloud backups, cloud storage, online backups, however you want to call it, we believe is probably the first part of any good backup system.
Yeah, and we've tried most of the big names, you know, Google Drive, Amazon Photo Storage, even Adobe Cloud integrated, you know, right into Lightroom, but for whatever reason, we keep coming back to Dropbox.
Now, exactly which online storage solution you use is going to depend on how much you have to spend, how much storage you need, if there are any specific features that you feel like you need. For example, because Sarah and I work both in our business, we needed something where we could both work simultaneously, and that would work fine. But the most important thing that we believe every photographer needs is automatic backup, right? If you have to go in and manually back up your photos, I can almost guarantee the one time that you forget to do it for like 6 weeks straight is going to be the one time that your hard drive crashes.
Yeah, so thanks to Dropbox automatic backup, the minute we upload any photos to an internet connected computer, the photos are being copied to the cloud and then uploaded to any other computer that we have that has Dropbox installed.
So this is especially helpful when we're traveling for work, right? Because once we upload all the photos to our laptop in our hotel room or Airbnb or whatever, they will upload to the cloud literally while we sleep. And by the time we get home the next day or later that week, the photos are already downloaded onto our desktop, which is our faster computer where we actually do most of our editing.
Yeah, and a lot can happen between the time that you finish a wedding and the time that you get home. You know, imagine if your photos only existed on your memory cards or on your laptop and your camera bag or your laptop, you know, gets stolen or lost.
So that's cloud backup, but we also want to talk about another type of backup, right? Because if you were to just dump all the photos from your camera into the cloud and then delete them from you know, all physical sources, you'd pretty much be putting all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, so you know, what if Dropbox's building went up in flames and all of their servers, you know, crashed, or if they had corruption issues, or if their servers were hacked, or, you know, what if you accidentally deleted the images from Dropbox and couldn't get them back?
So these are pretty unlikely, but this is someone's wedding day we're talking about, right? We've heard enough stories of lost memory cards and crashed hard drives that we have an appreciation for how incredibly painful the conversation can be where you would have to tell one of your clients that they're not going to get any of their wedding photos, right? We've never had that conversation. God willing, we never will. But that's why we believe that physical backup and cloud storage is probably the way to go.
Yeah, so you want some combination of those physical backups on hard drives or on memory cards and the online backup on a cloud-based server. Is going to be your best bet, but that is likely going to change with time.
Yeah, and that kind of leads us into our next section, which is being flexible but not disorganized, right? The first wedding we ever shot had 2 photographers, 2 crop sensor cameras, and we only ended up delivering probably 400 final images. All of the raw files from the whole wedding day made up probably around 30 gigs, right? And we only shot 3 weddings that year. So if we had a 10 terabyte external hard drive, that would have lasted us, you know, 100 years.
Yeah, but compare that to just one of the weddings that we shot last year with, you know, 3 photographers, 5 full frame cameras, and like a little more than 5,000 raw images, which took up almost 200 gigabytes. Multiply that by the 40 weddings that we photographed last year, and you'll see that a 10 terabyte hard drive would barely last a year.
So clearly your systems are going to have to grow and adapt as your business and your photography grows and adapts. But that's not a free pass to just throw caution to the wind and back up however you're feeling on any particular day, right? That's not an excuse to not have good systems.
As a general rule, after you deliver a wedding, you can be less strict about the backups. You know, after all, the most important thing is that your clients get their wedding images. Maybe your weddings exist in 3 or 4 places while you're working on them, and then once your clients have their online gallery, you can just keep the raw files on an external hard drive or in the cloud from then on.
So as promised, here's your peek kind of behind the curtain at our exact full backup system for our workflow.
So step 1, while we are photographing a wedding, every image we take is being captured on 2 memory cards. So since all of our cameras have that dual card slot set to mirror each other, the images immediately exist in 2 places.
So step 2, throughout the wedding day, during any slow moments, like maybe if there's downtime before the ceremony or while we're eating dinner, we will go ahead and dump all of the photos from our memory card onto the laptop that we bring with us to every wedding day. So if something were to happen to our camera at any point during the day and we were to, for some reason, lose the camera or the memory cards, everything we had shot up until when we last dumped our photos would be safe on our computer. Plus, this just saves us time, because when we get home really late at night, the last thing you want to do is upload from, 8 different memory cards and thousands of photos.
Yeah. So step number 3, once we do get home, or, maybe we get back to that hotel or an Airbnb if we're traveling, before we even change out of the clothes that we wore to the wedding, we make sure that every single image we took that day is uploaded to our laptop and ensure that the images are saved in 3 places.
And since, like we mentioned, our laptop is connected to the internet and we use Dropbox, the photos will immediately start uploading to our Dropbox cloud service, so the images now exist in 4 places.
Yeah, so step number 5, then we put the memory cards back in our cameras, or we put them away if they're full. We won't format these cards until every single session and wedding that is on that card has been delivered to our clients. That's why we own 8 sets of 128 gigabyte memory cards.
So step 6 is, by the time we wake up the following morning, the images have already completely uploaded to Dropbox and then automatically downloaded from Dropbox to the internal hard drive of our desktop, which lives in our home office. So the images now exist in 5 places, and they'll exist there until we're done working on them.
Yeah. So step number 7 is we're going to cull, blog, edit, and deliver those images, but we're going to get to more on that later in the series.
Yeah, so step 8 is, once we've delivered the final images to our clients, we can go ahead and format the memory cards, remove them from our laptop, remove the images from our laptop, that is, and we will go ahead and move all of the images from the desktop to from the internal hard drive of the desktop to an external 10 terabyte hard drive that also lives permanently in our home office.
And then step number 9, after about 6 months, we are going to go and delete the roughly, 75% of the raw images that we never edited or delivered. We'll keep them for about 6 months because this is when, a small percentage of our clients will come back and ask about a certain image that they didn't see in their final gallery. If we've already deleted all of these undelivered raw photos, then we won't be able to go back and check for them. So 6 months kind of gives enough cushion for that.
And then step 10 is, after that 6-month period, the 1,000 or so raw files from a wedding and then maybe 200 raw files from a portrait session and the edited JPEGs will all exist on that external hard drive, as well as our client's gallery, forever.
Mm-hmm. So backup will, of course, look different for each photographer and will surely change as your business scales. But a word of caution for the wise: decide on a system, stick to it, and stay organized.
There's nothing more frustrating than scouring through, a handful of memory cards and half a dozen hard drives and logging into 4 different cloud services just because one of your couples asked you to find a specific photo.
Yeah. But all right, guys, that's it.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Our hope is that this video has helped you begin thinking about how you're going to create your own workflows for your post-production. And the first step, like we mentioned, is making sure your clients' images are safe and secure.
If you want more helpful free content for photographers, as well as a community of people who are also building their photography businesses, we'd encourage you to join our Facebook community, Mastering the Wedding Photography Biz with Hunter and Sarah.
So next week, like I mentioned, we're going to move on to keyword sorting your images, something that can make a really big difference in the long-term workflows of your business. So make sure to like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our new videos.
Yeah, and if you're a newer photographer and found this video helpful, or if you have questions, comment below. And even if you're a more experienced wedding photographer, let us know in the comments if you think we missed anything.
And finally, if you want to read a more detailed, in-depth dive into our backup systems, then you can check out the written version of this video on the Hunter and Sarah Photography blog. The link to all of these things are below.
But thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.